What is going on? Welcome back to the Underdog Investor audio experience. My name is Colin, and today I had a great conversation with a member in our accelerator program, and he had a question about reward structures for liquidity pools. And he said basically this: Colin, I have a quick question. I am in a full range pool on Aerodrome, and I was earning 20% per month last week, but this week I'm only earning 16% per month. Why is it dropping in value? Because it's a full range pool, I'm not at a range. The prices, things aren't moving. Why am I earning less? And I said, okay, cool. There's two things that I look at. Number one is the trading volume or the reward structure for that DEX. And the second one is the TVL. The first one that we looked at, and we basically looked at the Aerodrome reward structure, and it did look like last week and this week had very similar payment structures, which means that the rewards being distributed to that pool were the same last week as they are this week. So why did it drop from 20% per month to 16% per month? And let's pause there for a sec. The thing we need to understand is that how are we generating rewards as liquidity providers? I've said this a million times, but I really want to, reiterate it now, is that we as liquidity providers earn in two different ways. Number one is we earn the trading fees that users are paying to swap their assets back and forth. That is known as the volume. And that's, most notably in Uniswap, that's that structure of that DEX. And so if I'm in a wrapped ETH USDC pool and users are swapping wrapped ETH and USDC back and forth, every time they do so, they pay a small fee. That small fee comes to me as a liquidity provider. On Aerodrome, which is where the member was, is a little bit different. This is based on a voting structure. So it's a little bit different, where we're not generating rewards based on the trading volume. We're generating rewards based on the voted distribution of the Aero emissions. And that was a big sentence there. But basically, um, people who can take their arrow, if they can lock it up and receive VE arrow. Basically, it's a voting, it's a token that represents your voting rights, and you can vote on how the arrow token emissions are distributed to the different pools. So hopefully that makes sense. If you don't, come back in UIG, ask me how to explain a little bit further, and I'd be glad to. So inside of the Aerodrome pool here, we looked at the arrow emissions from last week to this week. And he was right. The aero emissions didn't change much. So why was there a fairly, a decently drastic drop here from 20% per month to 16% per month? And so, that was the first thing we looked at. The second thing I suggested was, okay, well, let's take a look at the total value locked at the TVL. And that is where we discovered why it dropped from 20% to 16%. Basically, the way I describe this is if you have a large pizza, think about a large pizza with your favorite toppings, and you have six people standing around the pizza. Well, if you divide that pizza up between the TVL, between the investors, of that pizza shop there, you can split that pizza into six slices, and then, everybody can enjoy their slice. So in a full range liquidity pool, there is no range setting. And so everybody that is providing liquidity into that pool will get an equal distribution of the slices. Hopefully that makes sense, right? However, what we found out was even though the pizza itself remained the same size, there was more people standing around the pizza. Basically the TVL had increased by multiple $1 million. And so if there, I think there was 60,000, excuse me, $60 million in TVL last week, there was like $63 million this week. And so to use a silly metaphor, is that the pizza remained the same. The aero emission structure stayed the same from last week to this week, meaning the pizza itself didn't change. The amount of TVL, the amount of investors, the amount of people standing around the pizza changed. And so now there's not six people that are trying to split this pizza. There's nine people standing around this pizza. And now we got to split these emissions amongst more people. And so that is why that's why the returns for this pool had dropped. Even though the emission rate stayed the same, the TVL had increased, meaning that the emissions had to be spread amongst more members. So this was kind of a technical conversation, but again, it's something to help you assess your pools. We want to be looking at the returns that we're making, the realized results that we're seeing. And to analyze it a step further, we're looking at the volume, which is usually the culprit. It's the volume or it's the TVL structure, or it's the TVL metrics. Those two figures will help us really, dig in and decide and assess why the returns are the way they are. So again, the volume and the TVL is what we're looking at. So with that being said, hopefully it was helpful. Hop back in the UIG. If you have any questions following up on this episode, let me know, and I'd be glad to help you. And with that being said, we will catch you in the next episode. Peace.